What's up guys, my name's Brandon, and if you just got an M3, M3 Pro, or M3 Max MacBook Pro, this video is going to show you the first 21 things that you need to do after unboxing and setting up your machine. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is go into your settings, go to General, and then go to Software Update, because some of these M3 MacBooks came with macOS Ventura installed and not even macOS Sonoma, let alone the latest version of macOS Sonoma. So you need to go ahead and make sure you are up to date on your software. Okay, that's a very obvious one, but it's very critical, so I wanted to get that out of the way. Now, the next thing we need to do is change our trackpad settings. This is the thing that drives me crazy every time I unbox a new MacBook. These are just not ideal for most users, especially pro users if you're getting a MacBook Pro. So go to the trackpad settings all the way down here, and you want to adjust this, especially the tracking speed. I highly doubt anybody's going to stick to the default tracking speed, which is very slow. Your mouse just doesn't move very fast. So you can set that to what you want. I usually do mine 2 notches below the fastest. And then also we have click right here. If you want a light or a firm click, you can change that. I like to keep that at medium. And then also right here where we have tap to click, if you don't want to actually click down on your trackpad and you just want to tap, this is where you can do that. You can just tap the trackpad and it will, imitate a click without wearing out your trackpad down here. And then if we head over to the scroll and zoom section, I like to have natural scrolling turned off. So this is where basically when you swipe down on the trackpad, your screen goes down instead of up. So this is just personal preference, but this is where you change that. And then also more gestures right here. You can change any of these. I like to keep most of these at default though. Now there is one other thing I want to change, and that is if we go into our settings and go to accessibility, we're going to go down here until we see pointer control and then go to trackpad options. And then from here, we have use trackpad for dragging. I like to turn this on and then change the dragging style to 3-finger drag. And what this does is it allows you to drag windows with just 3 fingers, a 3-finger gesture. So I'm going to pull up my Safari, for example. If I wanted to move this window, I just take these 3 fingers and just tap down on the window and I can move it around just like so. It's so convenient. You can't really do that with 1 or 2 fingers, so you have to have this enabled, and it's really convenient for moving things around like the Finder windows especially, or just for different windows that you have on the desktop. The next thing you want to do is change the display settings, and there are quite a few to change here. The first one is the wallpaper, of course. This is a very basic one, but if you go down here underneath of pictures on the wallpaper section, you will see that we have the M3 MacBook Pro exclusive wallpaper right here. This one's pretty cool. It's like a dark mode, but you might also want to check out some of these other ones because macOS Sonoma does come with quite a few wallpapers, and you will need to download these wallpapers as well. But the cool thing about them is that they do animate when you go from the lock screen to the desktop. But change up your wallpaper because you don't want to look like every other MacBook Pro out there. But more importantly is the tab above where we have displays. So from here, you might want to set this from default to more space. Now, yes, this is going to make things a little bit smaller, but especially if you have a 14-inch MacBook Pro, this is going to give you more space on your desktop to multitask and just have, different things on your desktop without having to minimize everything. So this just gives you more space on the desktop, and it is something that I personally always change right away. And if this leads to the text being too small for you to read, just press Command plus and it will zoom in on that content so you can read it very easily. And then you still have all this extra space over here for other windows. And then going into the lock screen settings, you might want to change when your display turns off when inactive. So it's default to 2 minutes. So your display turns off when you are not using your computer for 2 minutes, which is way too low for me personally. So I like to set this to 30 minutes. That may be too much for you guys, but you might want to adjust that setting in there. And then also you can do when you want to start the screensaver and everything else as well. And my wallpaper just changed because it just finished downloading. So if you download a wallpaper in the background, it will auto apply once it does finish downloading. But anyways, the next thing I want to talk about is the battery percentage in the status bar, because I personally don't like having to click on the battery icon to see my percentage. So let's change that. Just go into your control center settings and then go down until you get to the battery section. And then we have show percentage. It's off by default. You might want to turn that on. And this is also where you can kind of clean up your menu bar as well. So like, for example, if you don't want, focus mode showing up in your menu bar, you can hide that so it doesn't show that up there. You can do display, screen mirroring, all of that you can hide right here in this section. Like me personally, I don't like Spotlight showing up in the menu bar because to get to the Spotlight, which all that does, by the way, when you click on Spotlight, it just pulls up the Spotlight search, but you can just press on Command spacebar and that gets you to Spotlight search much easier easier, and that's what I use every single time. So for me, I'm going to turn spotlight off. I'm not going to have that up in there in the status bar, taking up valuable space. And then the last thing I like to change relating to the display settings is with hot corners. So if you go into your desktop and dock settings and go all the way down to the bottom, we have hot corners right here. And what this does is it allows you to basically go into a corner to trigger a certain action or open a certain window. So for example, if I want to, open up a quick note, if I want to start a screensaver, if I want to lock my screen, all I have to do is go into that corner. So if you can see right here, we have it set to quick note. So for example, if I go into this bottom right corner, you can see I don't have to press anything. I just go all the way down there and it will invoke a quick note. So for example, if I set the top left to be notification center, I could put my cursor up in that top left hot corner and it will invoke the notification center. Now, what you might not know is that you can use a modifier key so that you can reduce accidental triggers, because sometimes you might put your cursor up there and it will invoke that action when you don't really want it to do that. It can be kind of annoying sometimes. So you could actually set a modifier key by pressing on Shift or Command or Option, any key like that. And that way you have it set to be where you have to hold that trigger key or hold, that modifier key and then go in that corner for this action to happen. So for example, if I have this say, we'll just go to mission control. So I'm going to hold down on Option and then select mission control. And you will see right there, it indicates that if we go in the bottom left, you can see mission control will not invoke unless I hold Option and then go down there. And you can see up in the top, it's, pulling up mission control. So you might want to set modifier keys to prevent accidental triggers. The next thing you should do is make sure you have a good password management system. And I know iCloud Keychain has come a long way and it's great for basic password management, but if you're looking for something a bit more robust, then today's sponsor NordPass might be for you. Whether you're a business owner or a casual user, managing passwords can be a major headache, but with NordPass, you can automatically create strong passwords or even passkeys and log into your accounts in seconds with autofill on either desktop or mobile. And while that's something that iCloud already does, the main reason I think NordPass is the better solution for individuals or especially business is because of the ability to store sensitive data like credit card details, confidential notes, or Wi-Fi passwords all under one umbrella, where you can then share that information with colleagues safely and securely. And if you've ever experienced a data breach, you know how brutal that experience can be. And thankfully, NordPass has 24/7 monitoring with one of the market's most robust data breach scanners. So if you or somebody on your team gets their email or payment information compromised, you will be alerted instantly. So if you want to try NordPass free for 3 months, go to nordpass.com/BrandonButch and use code BrandonButch as the activation code. Okay, so our desktop was looking a little bit bare, so I had to add some of these widgets here. And the way I did that was I just 2-finger pressed on the desktop and then go to edit widgets. And from here, you could add all these different widgets from your Mac, and also this uses continuity, so you could add widgets from applications that you don't even have on your computer, but you have on your iPhone. So you can select them right there. You can see up in the top right, it will say from iPhone. And the cool thing about these widgets is that you can move them pretty much anywhere you want on the desktop. There's not really many constraints, and you could also change the size on the fly by 2-finger pressing and changing the size right there. So this is awesome. I think our desktop looks a lot better now. Now you can also change the look of these. You'll notice how they got that different look right there. And that's because if we go into our settings and then go into desktop and dock, if we go down until we get to the widgets section, this is where you can have show widgets on desktop or in Stage Manager. I would recommend having them on for both, but if you don't want them to be on the desktop, you only want them to show up in Stage Manager, you can do that right there. And widget style is important here as well. So if you want them to stay in full color, regardless of if you're on the desktop or not, you want to set this to full color, or if you want them to always be monochrome, you can change it right there. And then you might have also seen where I click on the desktop and it kind of just makes every other window go away so I can see my desktop. And if you don't like that, or if you want to tweak that, you can, and you do it in this same section right here. So it's in the section right above this where we have desktop and Stage Manager. And that setting is right here where it says click wallpaper to reveal desktop. So if you're in like Safari, for example, and you click on the desktop, it will make every other window go away so you can see what is on your desktop. Now, if you don't like that, and I personally find that kind of redundant, you can turn that off right here to have it set to only in Stage Manager. That way you only go into the desktop when you click on it when you're in Stage Manager and not just in normal mode. So I'm clicking right now and it does not take me to the desktop like I like it. And something else you might want to change in here is that if you take a lot of screenshots or if you have different, external devices hooked up, external SSDs hooked up, all of those are going to show on your desktop. But if you want to hide those, you can now do so with this setting right here where it says show items. And if you deselect on desktop, it's going to hide all of your desktop icons and give you a very clean look. And if you want to show those items only in Stage Manager, you can have that set up right there. Now, the next thing you want to do is take advantage of high power mode. Now, this is exclusive to the M3 Max chip, but this year it applies to not only the 16-inch model, but also the 14-inch model as well. So if you go into your battery up here in the status bar and then go to battery settings, when you go under energy mode, you can have on battery set to high power, or you can have it set to on power adapter, or you can just set them both to always be using high power. And what high power mode does is it allows the fans to run at higher speeds, which leads to higher performance. So of course your fans are going to spin up at higher RPMs, but they're also going to be more efficient. They're going to allow you to be a lot more intense with your workflow. And speaking of an intense workflow, the M3 chips all have hardware accelerated ray tracing. So you might want to try out some games because performance and especially the GPU has improved on every M3 chip. Whether you have the M3, M3 Pro, or M3 Max, you should try out gaming because it's a lot more, enjoyable now than it has been on previous M series Macs. Okay, enough about gaming. Let's talk more about productivity because the next thing you want to do is set up web applications. So with macOS Sonoma, you're now able to set web applications via Safari. So if you go into Safari, let's just say we want an application for Notion. If we use Notion a lot to plan out our day and just plan out different tasks that we need to do, especially if you have a team, great application for it, but you want that to be in the dock at all times, and you want that to be an application instead of having to always go to the website. So to do that, you just want to go into the file section right here and then go to add to dock. So once you go to add to dock, this is where you can set it up and just name it whatever you want it to be called down here in the dock along with the URL, and then tap on add, and you can see down here in our dock, we now have a Notion application. And when you click on that, it opens it up in its own application. Like it's not in Safari. You can see up here in the top left, it is its own application. Now you can also change that URL at any time. Just go to settings when you're in that app and you can change the application URL along with the appearance. If you want to show nav controls or show the color in the title bar, you can have that enabled or disabled. You can change the icon right there. And then you also have your privacy settings right here as well. Now, if you're like me, you're always screenshotting or screen recording something. Like it's a constant thing that you do on a daily basis. And instead of going into the QuickTime player, like a lot of people just go into QuickTime and then they go up here to file and then they go to, new movie recording or new audio recording. And it's a long process, but there's a much easier way to do that. And that is with keyboard shortcuts. So if you press on Command, Shift, and 4, for example, that's going to bring up this little, target icon. And this allows you to select a certain part of your screen, and then when you let go, it takes a screenshot of that spot and you have the markup right here. Now also, if you press Command, Shift, and 3, it'll take a full page screenshot. And if you press Command, Shift, and 5, that will start a screen recording very easily. And then down here, you can choose what you want to record with that screen recording along with the different options right here. Now, another pro tip is that when you take a screenshot, for example, like I'll just press Command, Shift, 3 to take a full page screenshot. If you 2-finger press on that, this is where you can go and you could have different quick actions right here. And what I like to do is just copy and delete these. So if you select Save to Clipboard, that's going to copy the image but not save it. Okay, so since we're talking about productivity, we have to adjust these Finder settings because Finder out of the box, the default settings are just brutal in my opinion. Like nothing is the way I want it. So we're going to change that, and there's a lot to cover here. So the first thing is you want to change what your default Finder window is. So like if it opens up recents all the time, you may not want that. You may want to go to desktop or documents or downloads. So let's change that. Let's go up to Finder up in the top left and then go to settings. And first off, just change the new Finder windows show setting to where you want to actually go the first time you open up Finder. So like for me, for example, I'm always in my documents folder. So I'm just going to open up documents as the default. And while we're in the Finder settings, we might as well go over to the sidebar section as well. And this is where you can add or remove things from the sidebar right here, which is completely full of things that you probably do not use. So like for me, for example, I never use iCloud Drive. So I'm going to deselect that. AirDrop is completely pointless to have on the sidebar, and I'll show you why in a moment. And same with recents. We're going to make a better recents folder, so we're going to go ahead and remove that. I personally do not use tags, so we're going to remove what you see right here, all these tags. We're going to remove that. And then for locations, you might want to have these set, but me personally, I do not have these set for anything except for hard disks and external disks. Okay, so our Finder looks a lot better now, but there's still a lot more to do. So first off, where you have the name, kind, and date open, just two-finger press right there, right click right there, and you could have, any of these added in there as well. So me personally, I like to always see the size of the files. So I'm going to add size in there, and now you can move these around. So this is going to be completely personal preference, but I like to have my date last opened right next to the name and then the size after that. And I also like to make these a little bit smaller, more compact, where it just shows the, small version of the date added right there. And also for the name, I like this to be a little bit smaller as well. And then size right here, and then kind. So there we go. That's how I like it. Now you also want to go ahead and right click right here on your Finder and go to customize toolbar. And from here, I would highly recommend adding in AirDrop. So you can just take and drag AirDrop right there. That way you have a quick and easy way to add in AirDrop and just, AirDrop files very easily. You also have all these other different ones you could add right there. But my personal one that I think everybody should have is AirDrop. That way you can just press on that and it's going to pull up when you select a file, press AirDrop, boom, you're AirDropping without having to right click on it, and then go to share and then to AirDrop. It's a long, tedious process if you don't have it right there in the toolbar. Okay, so I said earlier how the recents folder is kind of pointless and kind of just gives you a lot of junk that you don't always care about. So let's make a real recents folder, and to do this, we're going to use smart folders. So what you want to do is go up to File, and then right here go to New Smart Folder. And then from here, we have search, and we're just going to click on the plus right here. And by the way, you want this Mac to be selected under search. You don't want it to be on a certain folder. So we're going to go to where it says kind, and we want to change this to last opened date. And from here, we can do within the last certain amount of days, or you can just do like this week, this month, whatever you like to do. I'm just going to do like the last 30 days, for example. So you can see now it's going to show all of the items that we've opened within the last 30 days. Now, what you might start to notice, especially if you have more items than me, is that you're going to have a lot of applications. And usually when you have a recents folder, you're not really looking for applications. They kind of just waste space in there. You're kind of only looking for actual files, not applications. So we need to change that. So now what you need to do is find the plus over here to the right of where we just were and hold Option, and it turns into 3 dots. Now you want to press on that and we get this new menu right here. And this is going to set some different parameters for what we do not want to show up in the recent smart folder. So from here, we want to set where it says any, you want to change that to none. So it's going to say none of the following are true. And we're going to change the kind to application. So now it's going to show everything except for applications, for example. And if you want to keep that going, like if we don't want to show this zip file, we could just go ahead and press add right here as well and change that to the same thing. So we're going to do kind is, and we'll just do a archive. So now the archive, the zip file will not show up. So now it's only showing folders and actual files. But again, if you don't even want folders to show up, just keep pressing plus and keep changing and keep kind of excluding different things that you do not want to show right there until you get it down to whatever you like. So there we go. Now it's only showing the actual files that I care about. And once you have that set to your liking, just click on save. And from here, you can change this to say recents. And this is going to say where you want to save it. You can save it to save searches. And then you want to make sure add to sidebar is enabled, and then click save. And now we have a real recents folder, not the default one that Apple gives you, which I find kind of pointless. Now, another little pro tip here is to tap the spacebar on any file to see a preview of it, or also to see how much storage a folder takes up. So for example, I have these folders right here, and you can see it does not show the size, but if you tap on the spacebar while on that, it's going to calculate the size and show you how big it is. So it shows 3.33 gigabytes for the library, and for applications, it shows that the size of that is 13.48 gigabytes. And if we go to the desktop, you can quickly preview these files by simply tapping on the spacebar on them. However, there's also a little trick here when previewing a file that you might not know about. So if you go into your settings right here, we're gonna change something in the trackpad settings. So we're gonna go all the way down to trackpad, and you wanna go to lookup and data detectors, and you might wanna change this to tap with 3 fingers. And what this allows you to do is that if you tap with 3 fingers on a file, it's gonna bring up that same preview. That way you don't need to press on this space bar. And this also works in Safari, for example. So if we go to, we'll just do a Google search real quick. So for example, if I want to preview this website, I could just press 3 fingers on the trackpad and it's going to give me a quick preview of that website without fully going into it. Another tip you need to know about for your M3 MacBook Pro or just Mac OS in general is the power of the Option key. So if you hold on the Option key and then 2-finger press on an application, that allows you to force quit very easily. But most importantly, this applies to Finder. So sometimes your Finder can become unresponsive, but if you hold Option and then 2-finger press or right click on that, you get the option to relaunch the Finder application. The next thing you want to do is turn off auto file opening, especially for annoying media files like MP3. So I'm going to go ahead and download this MP3, and you know this all too well, where it opens up the music application automatically. It's super annoying. So it's playing the music sound right now, or the keyboard sound right now. It's super annoying. I don't like that. So we want to turn that off. So go into your Safari and then go to settings, and then right here under general at the very bottom, we have open safe files after downloading. You probably want to disable that. Now, the next thing you need to do is understand how useful Spotlight search is and use that for everything. So earlier on, we removed the Spotlight search from the menu bar up in the top right. And the reason for that is because you could just easily press Command and Spacebar at the same time, and it pulls up your Spotlight search right here. Now, this is how I open up every application. I never go into my Finder or into my Launchpad. I always just Command Spacebar and then start typing out what I want to open and then hit return, and it will open up that application very easily and much quicker than going through Finder or your Launchpad. But another way you can use this is for math problems. So like if I want to know what 987765 times 98120 is, it shows that result right there, and I can also copy it very easily right there. You do not need to go into the calculator application. And you can also just search for things and see web results right here. You can see definitions, you can see where it shows up on your Mac, like if it's in the news, if it's in your music, if it's in your PDF documents. I highly recommend you just use Spotlight search for pretty much everything. But I do want to say that some of these results are just not going to be relevant at all. Like if you don't want to search news, if you don't want to search music, or if you don't want to search, certain things like that, you can change this. So what we want to do is go into our settings and then go down to Siri and Spotlight. And then from here, you want to deselect under the Spotlight section what you do not want to show up in your search results. Like you probably do not care about, searching for fonts, for example. You may not care about searching for the definition of something, or, you may not care about we'll just say tips, for example. Whatever you don't want to be included there, just deselect it. All right, now I cannot believe I went this far without mentioning the fact that we need to also organize and customize our dock. So our dock right now is a mess. It shows a lot of applications that we just absolutely do not use and have no intention of using. So what you need to do is clean this up. So I'm just going to quickly remove the applications I do not want showing up in my dock by taking them right here and then removing them just by simply dragging and holding on the desktop. That's an easier and quicker way to remove them from the dock. So I'm going to remove all these. There we go. It already looks much better. Now you also want to right click on your dock and then go to dock settings. And from here, it's going to open up your settings. You can also just go to this by going into settings and desktop and dock. But from here, you also want to change potentially the size of your dock. So if you want it bigger or smaller, you can change that right there. I usually like mine to be right about in the middle. And magnification, if you want your icons to magnify when you hover over them, you can change that as well. I personally like to have the magnification off. You can also change the position if you'd like to have your dock on the left or the right side. You can change that. And you can also automatically show and hide the dock. So if you want an ultra clean desktop, you can do this where your dock is hidden until you put your cursor down there near the dock and it will pull it up. And something else you might want to change here is this setting right here that says minimize windows into application icon. So if you do this, if you go into Safari, if we open up a couple of different Safari windows, for example, and we minimize those, you can see they only go into Safari, whereas whereas if I had that deselected like the default, it's going to show them over here on the right hand side when I minimize them. So you can see it shows it over here on the right hand side, which could make your dock a little bit more cluttered. So you can turn that on or off from here as well. I personally like having this turned on. That way it makes my dock look a lot cleaner and everything is just in this one section, and I can just press and hold on that and it shows my different windows that are opened up for that specific app. Now, if we head to our control center up in the top right, I know the control center is not used as much on the Mac as it is on the iPhone, but there is a quick and easy way to drag settings to this menu bar right here. So for example, if you want, Wi-Fi showing up there, if you want Bluetooth showing up there, you can take and drag these up to that menu bar. So I'm just going to take this and you can see I can drag, and now I have a quick shortcut to the Bluetooth settings. Or if I want, let's just say focus mode, I can drag this focus and now I can have focus modes up there, a quick shortcut to that in the menu bar. Okay, so I don't know about you guys, but I personally do not like receiving iMessages and FaceTime calls on my Mac. So if you're like me and you don't like getting calls or texts on your MacBook Pro, you want to go into the Messages application, for example. We'll start here and then go to Settings, and from here you want to go to iMessage and then deselect what you do not want to be reached by. So if you only want to be reached by a email address that you have set up, like me personally, you could set that up here. That way I'm not getting the same messages and calls that I am from my main phone number. I'm only getting the calls or messages from an email address that I have set up here for iMessage. And then same goes for FaceTime. If you do not want FaceTime calls coming to your MacBook, you can change that right here as well. And especially this setting where it says calls from iPhone, I always turn that off. I like keeping my FaceTime on my phone only. The next thing you want to do is configure your iCloud settings. So me personally, I always like to disable iCloud Drive just to retain storage. I like using my iCloud storage mainly for my iPhones and my iPads. I don't really use iCloud a lot for my Mac to back up things, just because I usually have more space and I have external drives. So from here, you want to make sure, first off, optimize Mac storage. I would recommend having that turned on. It is on by default. However, iCloud Drive, I would recommend turning that off unless you are somebody who just always wants to have pretty much all your documents and data in the cloud. And you can actually see which applications are syncing to the iCloud Drive. So if you want to disable only certain applications, this is where you can do it. Although me personally, I do not like syncing my Mac, period, to iCloud. I like leaving that mainly just to my iPad and my iPhone. So I'm going to turn that off, but you can change that to whatever you would like. And you might want to also change your Touch ID settings. So if you go to the Touch ID and password, I would recommend adding at least one additional fingerprint. So most people are going to use their right index finger, but I would also recommend using another finger or potentially even a couple of other fingers. So if you go to add fingerprints, this is where you could add in a different fingerprint, maybe like your middle finger, for example, or your left index finger. You could do that. Or if you share your MacBook with somebody, just have them put in their fingerprint. That way it unlocks for both users. And then also down here under Apple Watch, I would recommend having this turned on. That way you can quickly and easily unlock your Mac with just wearing your watch. You don't have to put in your Touch ID on the MacBook. And then the final thing you need to do on your M3 MacBook Pro is configure Time Machine. So this is going to be the best way to back up all of your files on your Mac. And it's another reason why I do not think you need iCloud Drive to save all your files. So what I would recommend doing is buying a like 3 or 4 terabyte hard drive for $100 on Amazon and just use that for your backups. And right here where you go to add backup disk, it's going to allow you to use that disk to back up all your files to Time Machine. That way you can go back in time if you maybe deleted a file on accident, and this is an easy way to recover it. So there you have it. Those are the first 21 things that you need to do on your brand new M3 MacBook Pro. So if you learned something new and if you just enjoyed this video, I would appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. Also, let me know in a comment down below what your favorite thing is that I covered here, and also which M3 MacBook did you get? Did you get the Pro? Did you get the Max? Did you get the regular M3? Let me know in a comment down below along with how your experience has been so far. But anyways, thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll see you soon.